Hello friends, Ben here from Motocamp Nerd, and let's talk about how I put all of this onto that. So we've done a ton of videos about different types of gear. I did a luggage video recently just sort of walking through the luggage setup for this Kriega OS system. We haven't really talked about what you do when it kind of comes to putting the camping gear that you've purchased onto your motorcycle in order to transport it. I decided that instead of just some theoretical, here's a list of tips kind of thing, I wanted to do it a little bit more realistic. So this is our best value comfort kit camping setup, along with the other things that I take with me on a typical trip. This is not a minimalist setup by any stretch of the imagination. You can tell because there's a chair here. I've got about 56 liters of total luggage capacity with the Kriega OS 18s on both sides, and then I have the Roll Pack 20 on the top, and that's about as much as I want to take on a bike this size. And it's a good size because it's big enough to take everything you need, but it kind of limits you from taking a bunch of luxuries and other stuff that you don't need, that it's just going to make your bike heavier. So this is not our smallest tent. Obviously, you wouldn't take a chair on every trip. I've got the Echo Park 35 in this stuff sack. This is the Sea to Summit Event 8-liter stuff sack. Okay, one caveat, it's not entirely the best value comfort kit because I substituted the Campmeister Deluxe, which is actually a bigger and more comfortable sleeping pad than the Divide Insulated that comes in that kit, so it's even harder to pack. Let's just walk through my thought process as I pack all this on the motorcycle. So the first thing I generally do is pack the last bag I'll put on the bike. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but essentially this tent is too big to really go in the side bags on this setup. You can make it fit if you don't roll the top down all the way, but I don't really like to do that. It's also one of the lightest items in your kit and the longest items. So I like to take my bulky large items. In this case, it's gonna be my tent, my chair, and this is my bag of clothes. So I've just got a packing cube here. That's about how much clothes, maybe less, I take on a typical trip on a 2 or 3 dayer. And I'm just gonna put those in the roll bag for the top, then I'll put that bag on last. But that's just where these pieces are gonna fit best. So I'm just gonna put them in. I mean, you could save this for last, but I like to kind of get this bag figured out so I know if I have extra room for other stuff. And on top, I'll put my clothes bag because it's kind of compressible and conformable. I'm not going to seal that up yet because I may need the space. Okay, after that, it's about your heaviest items because you want the heaviest things you have as low as possible on the bike and as close to the bike as possible. And the secondary consideration there is because it's going in the bottom of your bag, you also want to think about the things you're less likely to need or the things you'll need last. So this is toolkit, mini toolkit, compressor, tube, tire changing stuff. This is my emergency kit. This is a Kriega US 5 and it fits in there pretty perfectly, and it's even got these straps. So if I wanted to, I could attach this bag to the top of this bag if I needed to. But since it's so heavy, I'd like to get it low and close to the bike. So I'm gonna put this in first in the bottom of one of the side bags. Because hopefully I don't need it. I won't need to get to it. So it can just stay in there the whole trip. And it's in there kind of flat against the bottom. My next heaviest item is actually this, my Possibles pouch. So this is the 6 Smooth design bag that we sell on the site, but it's just loaded with like my pillow, poop trowel, I've got my inflator pump in here, some lights, cup, my mosquito repellent. This is everything that just goes with me on every trip, and it's about the right shape and size, and it's kind of heavy. So I'm gonna put it in the bottom of the other leg. That Possibles pouch also fits perfectly right in the bottom of that, kind of flat to the bottom of the bag. It's not rocket science. The rest of it is kind of just about making stuff fit where it'll fit. There's obviously not a ton left, so this will be pretty easy. The sleeping bag is typically one of the most expensive items in your kit and also one of the most susceptible to heat. Just in case, I like to put that on the non-exhaust side. Same goes for anything that might combust or explode, because I've seen way too many stories of people with isobutane canisters or, heaven forbid, bear spray exploding in their bags. Could you imagine a giant cloud of bear spray on fire as you're riding down the road? Not great. So this is the kind of thing I would put away from the exhaust, but I also like to have this out where I can get to it, so it might be a strap to the top or just right inside this bag situation. Gonna take the sleeping bag and put it in the opposite side from the exhaust and maybe see if this pillow will work in and around it to make it kind of squarish. Sleeping bag right in the bottom. I actually have room for one more thing right on top, so.
Oh my God, he on X Games mode.
I'm gonna put my Jetboil right on top. Perfect, gives it a little structure. And it's kind of just like process of elimination. So what's left? Sleeping pad, my coffee kit, this is my toiletries, and a couple meals, which I'll just put on top or try to fit in and around stuff as much as possible. Simple, actually this went way easier than I was expecting. I usually have to like pull stuff out and move it around, but this hasn't been bad at all. That just leaves the meals, which can go either in this bag where they're easy to get to or right on top of one of these. And then I can just seal up these dry bags, and I actually probably would strap this to the top because it's got straps on the outside. There's my roll bag and it just goes right on top. that. And I just close up the setup and I'm good to go. But let me show you what's inside the bags, kind of how they're packed, because that was kind of a 10,000 foot view. Let's zoom in on what it looks like inside. I absolutely do not mean to oversimplify this, but most people really, really overthink it. The idea is to get your bags stuffed as evenly as possible, weight distributed as evenly as possible, and as full as possible, or at least compacted as possible, so that you can tighten the straps down and have it not move around. But here's that right side bag that I just packed, so coffee went in last. There it is. Right here's the toiletries bag, you can see. Here is the sleeping pad, and in the very bottom, pushed all the way up against the bottom of the bag, the very front of the bag, is that toolkit. Other side. So here's my 2 meals, and I just stacked them like this so they'd be flatter. Inside, jet oil. I put it sideways because it would fit. Gives the bag a little structure and rigidity. And then in here, it's pretty simple. Here's my sleeping bag. Just there, right there, there it is. And then I had that pillow just kind of stuffed in next to it to make it a little bit more square, shape of the bag. And in the very bottom, you can see that Possibles pouch I told you about, also just sort of flat against the bottom front of the bag. It's almost exactly the right size. On top is this roll pack, which I would attach to the bike, right? And I can get in and out of without removing. I just have it attached it. So you could just open this end, loosen the straps, and you can get inside. I'll just show you what's in there. It's just my clothes bag is on top. You see at the very top there, kind of squished, so that just gave it a little bit of roundness on the top and kept the stuff inside from moving around. And then it's just tent and my chair. Inside, they fit in this Kriega 20 perfectly. People really overthink this, and it is important to make sure that your luggage is not moving around, make sure your straps are strapped down, try to think about evenly distributing the weight and putting the heavy things in the bottom. But at the end of the day, you're just trying to get everything in your bags and use the space as efficiently as possible. It's a little bit like Tetris. You get better at it as time goes on, you get quicker at it, you get a sort of a sense for what you should put where. But at the end of the day, you're just putting your stuff in the bag, strapping it down so it doesn't move, and riding. Don't overthink it, but there's an example of kind of the thought process that goes into it, at least when I pack my bags. And I just also wanted to show that you can get a very good, a very comfortable amount of camping gear in a 60-liter setup, because this is only 58 liters total. We at Motocamp Nerd want to be your one-stop shop for all things motorcycle adventure. So everything you see here, luggage, all of the camping gear, everything that's in my bag, we sell on the website. I will link it for you in the description. We also sell riding gear and everything else you need to get out there and have your own adventures, because our goal at Motocamp Nerd is to help you pack small so that you can camp easy.